Mr. Mora, first tell us a little bit about why you're running for this position.
Well, I've been involved in Texas politics for the last 10 years now, and I have not been as concerned as the state of our education system. And I think it's something that our politicians in Austin have long ignored, and they have let our educational system slide deeper and deeper into a hole, and we need to put a stop to it. We need to return our educational system to what made our state great and what made us succeed. Right now we are in a system that prioritizes accountability, prioritizes standardized testing. We have a school board of education whose main concerns are injecting ideological and religious facts into our science textbooks, and it is just something that we need to correct immediately. The last legislative session, the Republicans responding to a $28 billion deficit in the budget, decided that education was something that could be cut just like anything else, and that I think was disastrous. Our teachers are feeling the pinch, our students are feeling the hit, and we need to put a stop to it immediately. So that's why I decided that it was a good opportunity for me to really make a difference and to get our educational system back to the way it was.
Now, during the debate, pretty much all of you made some reference to ending or changing in some substantial way standardized testing. But what do you say to the Texans out there that say, well, how do I, what kind of performance measures will I have for how my child is performing compared to other students? And how do I know that my child's teacher is doing their job? What would you say to those folks?
Well, I believe in accountability. We need accountability. The thing is, we let accountability go berserk. And now everything that we focus on, everything that our teachers focus on, everything that our principals and our administrators focus on, and everything our kids focus on is getting better test scores. We have GPA. That didn't go away. I mean, GPA for us was an adequate measure of our progress. We have our SATs. We've always had testing. The thing is, testing did not used to be this high stake as to where it encompasses everything. All our school days are taken up by drilling, by the drill to kill, by preparing, by learning test-taking skills instead of learning the skills that our kids need to succeed in the 21st century.
So let's do some comparison. First, I want to compare you with the incumbent, Charlie Garza, and I want to know how you stack up against your opponents. So let's start with the incumbent, Charlie Garza. What's your biggest critique of Charlie Garza?
My biggest critique is that he marches lockstep with extreme right-wing ideologues that are currently on the State Board of Education. Ideologues that insist on questioning the theory of evolution, when evolution is the basis, it's the foundation of science. It's where we come from. It's not a myth, it's scientific fact. And how are we going to prepare them to be the next scientists, to be the next engineers, to be the next leaders, if we are giving them shaky foundations, if we are confusing them as to the origins of science? I mean, other countries in the world, they are preparing their kids to compete in the global economy. We are preparing our kids to fail. We are preparing them on how to teach a test. We are teaching them that evolution is just one of many theories. We are teaching them that minority historical figures did not have a significant influence into what we became as a people. So I think that Charlie Garza, sitting on that board, does El Paso and does the rest of the district a tremendous disservice for the future of our children.
You had talked about, when asked during the debate about curbing corruption, you had mentioned one idea of moving school board elections to a regular election schedule.
Correct.
Can you expand on that?
Sure. This was something that I advocated for in Laredo, where I'm from, and what we did, not only to increase transparency in the school boards, but also to combine the elections and save some money. But it is a very effective way if you move the school board elections to coincide with the general election in November. Why? Because turnout for the school board elections is dismally low. And what happens here and everywhere else is that the school board members get reelected and reelected by motivating a small cadre of people to come out and vote for them. And this cadre of people get repaid in patronage and contracts. If we want to put a stop to that, we need to have the positions that are so important, like the school boards, be elected by the population in general, not by a small group of people. And we do that by having the school board elections to coincide with the elections for president, for governor, and for everything else. And it has worked out tremendously, and I think it's a way to address an issue that comes up repeatedly, corruption in our school districts. That's definitely one way to go about it.
I asked you to compare yourself to the incumbent, so now let's compare yourself to the other field of candidates. What do you bring to the table that your opponents don't?
Well, I have a lot of experience in the legislature. I have worked with State Senator Judith Saffarini. She is a chairwoman of the Higher Education Committee in the Senate. For a Democrat to be heading such a powerful committee speaks a lot in terms of her record and how hard she works for the educational system. I've also worked for our State Representative Richard Raymond, and I have been there not only in the Capitol, but working for the legislatures in the district and getting the feedback from the constituents, from the PTAs, from the parents, from the educators, and from everybody. And we have, and also the school unions. And I have been able to work with all these diverse groups to be able to filter them down to legislation that can be passed up in Austin. I know how the legislation is crafted. I know what it takes to get it through the legislative process, and I know how to best advocate and defend the interests of our children where it matters in the Capitol, where the laws get made.
This is the part I edit. If you had an opportunity, well, you're running against two El Pasoans, and your hometown is Laredo, but the district runs, it's a huge district. Why should El Paso support you?
Well, I believe that, first of all, El Paso and Laredo, where I'm from, and the rest of the district is very demographically similar. The problems that we have down in Laredo are the same kind of problems that we face here in El Paso, and the same kind of problems that we face all over the state. What we have is our school system has been in free fall over the last 10 years with the overemphasis on standardized testing, with the emphasis on ideological and extremism. And I believe I have what it takes to be able to argue effectively, to be able to reverse the current trends that we are on, to be able to put the kids' interest at the forefront. Right now we have a Republican administration who prefers to bow down to the test writing companies, that prefers to preserve tax cuts for oil and gas companies rather than to increase funding for our kids. And I think that El Paso will be well represented on the School Board of Education by electing me for that position.
I think, and I might be wrong, but I think you're the only one that actually used the phrase technology today in this debate. Why is technology important? Why, we had a legislature that was postured towards cuts. Now we're going to go into a different legislative session. Do you feel like they'll be open to investments in technology? Why is that important? Address those issues if we could.
Well, we are definitely in a renaissance in terms of technology and what it can do. And what we see right now is a reluctance to embrace technology. We saw efforts by the school boards to try to ban calculators in the schools. We have to understand, we have to recognize that our children are now born with these kind of devices in their hands. Like, it's an appendage now. But these things, with a touch of a button, you could access every work that's ever been published, ever in the history. how I wish that we would have had something like this available when we were growing up, when we were learning. And the thing is, the possibilities are endless. Right now, for example, like when I received my first Kindle, ever since I received my first Kindle as a gift, I have my curiosity has taken off to entirely different directions. I mean, you could go on Amazon and you could buy a book, and then you could see people who bought that book, what books they bought as well, so you could keep on exploring. You could get the first chapter free to see if you're interested. You could read the blogs from the authors. I mean, what we have is an opportunity to really, really spark the curiosity of these children, and for them to just go off on whatever strikes their fancy. We cannot abandon this opportunity. This is a tremendous gift that technology is giving us. It opens the doors for everything, and we cannot stifle it. So what we need to do is we need a voice in the debate that understands this. I'm not saying let's digitize everything and let's put flat screens everywhere and let's get rid of teachers. Hell no, that's not what I'm advocating for at all. But I think that we need to take advantage of the technology available to us and use it to let these kids explore, to open once more their inquisitive nature that has been stifled by years of standardized testing, by a system that says there's only one right answer and all the rest are wrong. The world doesn't work like that. And if they say, how can we make our schools more efficient? Well, let's introduce smartly the technology that's available to us right now. Hell, the technology that's already in the hands of our kids. And even it's better for their health. I'd rather have a kid having 10 textbooks in an iPad than 10 textbooks in a backpack. And so, I mean, and also the textbooks, if you want to update them, it takes years. They become old, they become worn.
A big expenditure.
They're a humongous expenditure.
Right.
With an iPad, you can update them whenever it's necessary to do so. So we cannot fight against this. It's like when the recording industry tried to fight against digital music, when they finally woke up and said, you know what, we need to embrace it. It's in our best interest. Well, for technology, we need to embrace it wholeheartedly. I was very proud when a school district here in El Paso decided to give all their children iPads. I think that's the way to go. I think that's how we save money. I think that's how we get our kids interested and into loving learning once again. What we tried in terms of reforming our system by increased accountability clearly did not work. There's mountains and mountains of evidence that standardized testing did not work, that charter schools are not working, and yet our kids continue to do worse and worse. What we need to do is we need to let our teachers do what they chose for their careers, which is to teach these kids, to interact with them, to work with them, to find what their interests are, what their passions are. And that can only be done by a well-rounded curriculum that is complemented by an application of our latest and most forward-looking technologies. That's how we fix our educational system, not by more rigorous and pointless standardized testing.
So, final question. If you had an opportunity to talk to an undecided voter, what would you tell that voter?
Well, I would tell that voter that what we have tried in the past has not been working. We need a fresh approach. And that fresh approach means that we need to go back and we need to empower our teachers to teach our kids, not to drill them to take a test. And I think a lot of parents will agree on that. They see their kids stressing out. Our teachers are stressed out because they'll lose their funding, they'll lose their jobs, or they're competing for some sort of ill-gotten incentive. Our principals are worried about higher and higher test scores, and everybody loses their focus on what they originally are meant to be doing, which is educating our children. So right now, we need to put a drastic and abrupt stop, a halt into this road that we've been going on, this winding yellow brick road that's leading us nowhere. And we need to refocus and rethink and get the best of technology with the best that our teachers have to offer and fix our educational system once and for all.